Heya! For this week's video I made tote bag. I used DK yarn, scissors, 3.5mm hook. The print is long gone, but I engraved at the end, and yarn needle. This bag I made from small regular granny squares. So to make a granny square I made chain 4, slip stitch in the first chain, then chain 3 and make 2 double crochets in the middle, then chain 2 for the corner, make 3 double crochets in the middle again, that's the first corner done. Now next corner, chain 2 and again 3 double crochets in the middle, now third corner, chain 2 and again 3 double crochets in the middle, the last ones. Now I have 3 corners done. Last corner is chain 2 and join with a slip stitch on the top of first chain. Now for the next round I have to start in the corner space, right there. So I will make 3 slip stitches to the left. And now I am in the corner space. Chain 2, 2 double crochets in the same corner, then chain 2 for the corner, and after that in the same space 3 double crochets. First chain works as first double crochet. And first corner is done. And exactly the same will be for next corner, but in between chain 1. And then corner is 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets in the same space. Now I have 2 corners complete, and the same for the other 2. Chain 1 and corner, chain 1 and corner. Now when all corners are done, chain 1 and slip stitch on the top of first chain. And fast enough, and the granny square is finished. For this bag I used 20 granny squares on one side, so I had to make 40. Next step for this granny square is to work in the yarn tails. The finishing tail I moved towards the beginning tail, made a double knot and worked in the tails. And the same way I did with all 40. It's so tiny, so cute and adorable. While I'm making next granny square, I have a story to tell. Have you ever experienced such thing I was waking up in the middle of the night with idea, so you get up, switch on the lights to take a note of your vision. I have, and this bag is the reason. I saw a tote bag with diagonal rainbow from Granny Squares. So here they all are, all 40. Beautiful colors, little tiny squares. And this is the idea, how I seen it. Next step is to join squares together. So I took yarn needle yarn, and I didn't want any yarn to be visible, so I chose the invisible join, which is worked in on the sides of the square. So I start with the corner, on the very side. On the bottom of every V stitch, I weave yarn through the squares. This process took like forever, but at the end, everything was just perfect. Don't worry, I won't be asking you to sit through every single stitch with me, but it took long time. What you are watching now is just a little bit over 20 minutes, but all my footage was about 155 minutes, and even then, all wasn't filmed. This bag took me days, not hours, but days. But at the end, I'm very proud of it. When stitching is done between squares, I took yarn from both ends and pulled, and nothing is visible. How cool is that? After that, I joined my next two and repeat the process. Starting from the corner and stitching all the way up. And then again, pull the yarn to close. And the same way with the rest of them. I've got so far. All colors are beautiful, everything is perfect. I cut the yarn, very proud of my job. And then I realized that I went a bit too high. Those blue and purple had to be beside it, not on the top. So I had to undo the top ones, place them where they belong, and stitch them together. And here they all are. Vertical lines are done. Now it's time for horizontal ones, where the spaces are. So I repeat the process to close the gaps. And here comes mistake number 2. I made both of them exactly the same. But in my mind I had to have mirror effect. So I had to start from scratch and make 40 more squares, just to have that what I had envisioned. What is there just to start all over again? But now at least I will have 2 bags. So not all is that bad. I will do frame now with 3.5mm hook and a black yarn. I attach the yarn, make a knot, pull yarn through and secure. Then chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets to make a corner, the same as for granny squares. I wanted to keep the same pattern all over. Now the first corner is finished. Then I made chain 1 and 3 double crochets in the next space. And the same again, chain 1 and 3 double crochets in the next space. Now I've come to the place where I join two squares. So there is a yarn tail. Then I make a double knot with the working yarn and the tail. And without chain 1, I made 3 double crochets into next space. And the same way I crocheted all around. After second joint, I was thinking maybe it would be the best if I would put 2 double crochets on each side of the joint, but because I made a double knot, it was a bit too late. So I kept going with 3 double crochets in each space. Now when looking back and doing voiceover, I'm thinking to myself, isn't that great when your dreams start to come true? This idea in the middle of the night came a couple months ago, but if I wouldn't take a note of it, it probably would never happen. I now make double knots nearly on every project I'm making because of my experience. I made big granny square blanket, and now after a few years it's just starting to unravel because I just worked yarn ends but never tied a knot. With all my talking now, I've come to another corner. So it's 3 double crochets, chain 2 and 3 double crochets, and crochet until the starting point. And here I made chain 1 and slip stitch on the top of first chain, and fasten off and cut the yarn. Now quick time lapse of me working in yarn tails. Now this frame is finished, but that's the only one side of one bag. I have 3 more to do. And just like that, all 4 are done. I was looking at them, touching them, and I didn't like how the edge felt. So I decided to go around every single frame with a single crochet. I pulled yarn through, secured it, and made 4 single crochets in the corner, but all rest 1 single crochet in each stitch. And again, it's a very repetitive process, nothing really is happening, so I will just fast forward it. Here they all are, much more better looking now. Then for the inside of the bag, I took old pillowcase, washed and all, but I seen pink, so I thought I could use it as the inside of the bag. I cut out the size what I need, stitched it all up, then I stitched by hand the bottom of the bag. After finishing that, I didn't want to go any further with the sides because I didn't know how much I have to take off. So I put together front and back of crocheted pieces and single crocheted them together. I crocheted only one side. Then I opened up and put the inside layer in between them two. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing. I was just trying my best to get the bag looking like a bag. I stitched the inner layer to one side of the bag and then crocheted around the edges. Now I know that inner layer will stay in place. When all edges were done, I fastened off and cut the yarn. Now I have to figure out the top of the bag. I wanted to have a little tiny pink edge on the top, so I had to cut it shorter, fold it and sew in place. Now the edges are done, but trust me, you didn't miss much. It was a nerve-wracking process to have. Fingers very sensitive now. Now for the handles, I started with chain 3, yarn over, insert the hook in the first chain, pull yarn through, yarn over, pull through only first one, yarn over and pull through all 3. Next is yarn over, insert hook on the side in the previous stitch and make sure they're through both loops. Then pull yarn through, yarn over, extend the first one, yarn over and pull through all 3. And like that, keep going until you reach the length you want your handles to be. Now I have reached the length I thought it would be enough for my bag. Turn your work, make chain 2, and as I mentioned before, I will keep the pattern throughout the project. So next is 2 double crochets in the first stitch, and the chain 2 counts as the first double crochet. Then chain 1, skip 2 and 3 double crochets in the third one, and like that all the way back. This is how it looks so far. And then in the last stitch, 1 double crochet. Then 4 single crochets across the end to get to other side. Then chain 2 and repeat the same with another side. In the first 2 double crochets, chain 2 counts as the first double crochet. Then chain 1, skip 2 stitches, and the third 3 double crochets. And on this side is exactly the same as another side. And the same again here. In the very last stitch, 1 double crochet. And now to finish it off, the same as another side. 4 single crochets across and fasten off. And in the same way, I made the second strip. Work in the tails, and it will be ready to use. Oh, and because I have 2 bags, I had to do it 4 times. Now back to bag, and I placed handles where I wanted them to be. Attach them to bag. And finally, I covered the ends with a little bit more of pink fabric. Here are my 2 bags. Dreams do come true. It's not the biggest tote bag, but it's beautiful, colorful, and at the end of the day, it's a bag from pillowcase and yarn. I hope you liked this video, and thank you very much for watching and supporting me.